There's aerobic exercise and there's strength training, but there's a third thing you should be doing for optimal physical health, one that you might not know about. And the great news is it's easy to do. I'm Eoghan Colgan, I'm an emergency medicine doctor, and I see the consequences of poor lifestyle choices every shift. In this video, I'll explain what that third thing is, why ignoring it can damage your health, even if you exercise regularly, and the fascinating science behind it. And at the end of the video, I'll show you just how easy it is to do. Let's jump right in. We've known for a long time that aerobic exercise, any movement that raises your heart rate, is great for health. It strengthens the heart, improves every body organ, extends life, and more. More recently, strength or resistance training has been proven to have its own separate incredible health benefits. Building and maintaining muscle, which releases powerful healthy chemicals, improving cardiovascular function, brain function, and more. But the science is now strongly supporting a third dimension of physical health that matters just as much, and that is regular movement throughout the day, or put another way, avoiding long periods of inactivity. The body has systems that need regular movement to stay consistently active. Exercise stimulates them powerfully but briefly, and without movement spread throughout the day, they fall quiet in the hours between exercise sessions, and that matters more than most people realize. And it makes sense when you think about it. Our ancient ancestors moved constantly throughout the day, foraging, hunting, building. People in the blue zones that live the longest move a lot throughout their day too, often without formal aerobic or strength exercise. That's not a coincidence. Our bodies evolved to love this type of lifestyle, and most of us have eliminated it from our lives. So how serious is this? Well, one landmark analysis brought together 47 studies of over 1 million people, and what it found was prolonged sitting is associated with a 24% increase in dying early, a 91% increase in type 2 diabetes risk, an 18% increase in dying from cardiovascular disease, and multiple other large studies have found the same pattern, and the more you sit, the worse it gets, with risk increasing steeply once you hit around 7 hours of total sitting a day. That's everything added together: time at your desk, your commute, time on the sofa in the evening. And critically, even if you exercise but sit for long periods throughout the rest of the day, you are still at risk. Now, these are observational studies. They suggest a link. They can't prove beyond doubt that sitting is the direct cause. But the same pattern repeats across multiple studies in different populations. We know we evolved to move often, and now we understand the biological mechanisms to explain it. And that's where it becomes really interesting. There are 3 interconnected mechanisms at work when you sit for extended periods. The first involves LPL, lipoprotein lipase. It's the enzyme responsible for clearing fat from your bloodstream. LPL is found throughout the body, but it's particularly concentrated in the tiny blood vessels running through your large leg muscles, where it captures triglycerides passing through the blood and breaks them down into fatty acids the muscle can use for energy. When the muscle is active, blood flow increases, energy demand rises, and LPL is stimulated to work and more fat is cleared from the blood. When you sit, the muscles switch off and LPL activity falls. And animal studies show that LPL activity drops by up to 95% within hours of stopping moving, switching off that fat clearing mechanism. And the result? Triglycerides accumulate in the blood, and over time they get deposited in and around the artery walls. That's atherosclerosis, the underlying process behind heart attack and stroke. And there's a second consequence worth noting. Excess fat circulating in the blood and accumulating in tissue is pro-inflammatory. Not a good thing. We'll come back to why that matters shortly. The second mechanism is glucose dysregulation. So when muscles are active, they also pull glucose out of the bloodstream to create the energy they need to function. When your leg muscles are inactive, they stop doing that. The level of glucose in the blood then rises, and the body responds by producing more insulin to bring it back down. But here's what's striking. One study took young fit adults and had them sit for just a single day. Insulin action, how effectively insulin was doing its job, dropped by 39% in just one day. Now, that effect is reversible, but repeat it day after day, year after year, and the cells gradually become consistently less responsive to insulin. That's insulin resistance, the underlying cause of type 2 diabetes. Now, persistently elevated blood sugar levels also directly damage the walls of blood vessels, accelerating atherosclerosis again. And just like raised fat levels, having elevated blood sugar levels is also pro-inflammatory, which I'm coming to shortly. The third mechanism is a more recent discovery. Muscles don't just help us move, but every time they contract, even gently, they release chemical signals called myokines, which have widespread health benefits throughout the body. Myokines regulate how the brain produces growth factors that protect against cognitive decline. They support immune function. They influence how the body handles fat and glucose, all beneficial for health. Now, aerobic exercise and strength training produce myokines too, in large bursts, but regular movement throughout the day keeps that signaling consistently active between sessions. And critically, myokines are powerfully anti-inflammatory. When you move regularly, myokines suppress inflammation throughout the body. If you don't, there is less protection, so inflammation rises. So why does this inflammation matter? Chronic inflammation is one of the key drivers of all of the major killers: heart disease, stroke, cancer, dementia, and it also drives biological aging. Chronic inflammation drives oxidative stress, damaging cells and DNA faster than the body can repair them. It promotes cellular senescence, where damaged cells stop functioning properly but remain in the body, releasing more inflammatory signals and accelerating the process further. And it accelerates the shortening of telomeres, the protective caps on your chromosomes, and a direct marker of cellular age. One study found that people who moved the least had cells that were 8 years older than those who moved more. And so regular movement has 3 powerful effects to prevent this early aging and disease: removing more fat and glucose from the blood, which normally promotes inflammation, and releasing more myokines to suppress it. Before we discuss how much movement you need and how often, I wanted to address step counting. Increasing your step count is a genuinely fantastic thing to do for your health, and for 2 reasons. It contributes to aerobic fitness, especially if you add a little effort, some speed or incline. But more importantly, it contributes to movement across the day. But here's the critical point: it's not just how many steps you take, it's when you take them. Multiple studies have compared a single bout of exercise followed by prolonged sitting against activity spread across the day. And consistently, movement spread throughout the day produces greater health benefits via the mechanisms I've just discussed. Same total movement, but an improved impact on the body. So if you're aiming for a certain number of steps each day, great. But for maximum benefit, spread some of those steps across the day rather than taking them all in one go. So how often do you need to move? Well, here are the key headlines from the best studies on this. 5 minutes of light walking every 30 minutes reduced blood sugar by 58%. Regular light activity every 30 minutes was associated with lower BMI and better blood sugar and fat levels. And even just 2 minutes of light movement every hour was associated with a 33% lower risk of dying, which is huge. So here's how I would summarize this. Ideally, move for a few minutes every half an hour, but as a minimum, move for 1 to 2 minutes every hour. And the good news, gentle movement is enough. Walking to a colleague instead of messaging them, taking the stairs instead of the lift, a short walk around the building. And if you can't easily get up and avoid long periods of sitting throughout the day, you have a couple of options. You can do some movement while seated, a simple heel raise, lifting your heel while keeping your toes on the floor repeatedly, activates the calf muscles enough to meaningfully improve blood sugar control and circulation. And there is some evidence showing that around 60 to 75 minutes of moderate intensity exercise a day, a little more than the standard recommendation, may be enough to offset the mortality risk from prolonged sitting. So if you can, making your exercise sessions a little longer is worthwhile. But for most of us, movement breaks throughout the day are the most achievable and complementary solution. And what about standing desks? Well, standing is better than sitting, but unfortunately, it's not as good as moving, and prolonged standing has its own problems. For example, back pain, poor circulation in the legs. So if you do use a standing desk, try to add some movement to get some of those benefits, such as those heel raises. When I first got my smartwatch, I have to admit I didn't fully understand the movement reminders every hour, but I get it now, and when it goes off, I'll get up to walk around the house or the hospital corridor if I'm working. I've also recently started walking on my treadmill when I'm working from home instead of sitting at a desk, and I find every excuse to add movement to the day. Always the stairs, always the longer route, parking a bit further away from where I'm going, doing laps of the hospital corridors when I get a break, and this is on top of formal regular exercise. If you'd like to find out more, there's a free guide in the pinned comment and description below. So this is one of the most fixable health risks most people don't know they have. It doesn't require more gym time or expensive equipment, just small and regular movement distributed throughout the day and separate to any formal exercise you may be doing. As an ER doctor, I've always been curious about why some people maintain health into older age. A common denominator amongst the healthy older adults I meet every day is consistent, regular movement. It's how humans evolved over millions of years, and we now understand the mechanisms behind it. So how much of your day is spent sitting, and has anything here changed how you think about it? Let me know in the comments. I love hearing real-world experience. If you enjoyed this video, you can access more via the link in the top left of the screen, and click the circle to subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming videos. I cover evidence-based health and longevity, no hype, just what the research actually shows. Until next time, take care.